One of the hardest parts about being a youth pastor is having the words to say at the right time. And it's not to say that I do or say that I don't. It's just that's the things that I have to be praying about and the things that I have to be aware of. And so right now, I'm kind of at a loss for words, and I'm just stuck with my thoughts, and I'm just stuck with, what's been weighing on my mind for the past several weeks. And so I'm going to anchor in Job 8 and starting with verse 8, just ask the previous generation, pay attention to the experience of our ancestors. For we were born but yesterday and know nothing. Our days on earth are as fleeting as a shadow, but those who came before us will teach you. They will teach you the wisdom of old. And when I read this, obviously you can take it literal, and I could look at it and say, I should look back at my ancestry and I should learn what they went through and learn the history and learn what they were good at and learn what I shouldn't do and stuff like that. But my mind here lately hasn't been on looking back, looking back, looking back. Because if we constantly just look back, we understand that we've done things wrong. But what happens, like how do we get past that and how do we move forward? So this scripture here just kind of spoke to me, I guess, in its own way for me, in the fact that I will eventually be this wisdom of old. And so what am I teaching the youth right now? What am I teaching others right now? What will I teach others when I'm 75, if I make it to that old? I mean, I've took a personal responsibility out of this, and am I just a teacher now? No. I also learn, and I learn from those that are older than me, and I learn from those that are younger than me. But at what point we have to start to recognize, not just as if you an adult or as youth, we have to start to recognize that we have to listen, we have to learn from mistakes, we have to learn from our right doings, and we have to be better people. And that's where my heart's been at for the past I don't know 2 weeks, and just thinking about, like, if things continue the way that they've gone and through history, that why the only reason it didn't change. Let me put it this way: I heard somebody this week, and it was just I don't even know if it was somebody I knew. I just heard it in conversation, and they said something along the lines of, and you've probably heard somebody say it, is that I can't believe, or I don't want to live where this world is going, or I don't want to be a part of this world when it gets, or in the future. You've probably heard somebody say something along those lines, and not to say that isn't true, that obviously there's billions of people that live on this earth, and, we are just one person, or I'm just one person. But I got to thinking about it, and I was like, the only way that changes, the only way that we deviate from that and this becomes a better place, is a personal responsibility. Or it's my responsibility to teach my kids. And if you were at the track field 2 weeks ago, you kind of heard me talk a little bit about this, and I just said, I was driving down a road in town, and I started to see several yards that in a row, like a neighbor, and I would see one yard that was well taken care of, that the edge of the road all the way up to the actual road was mowed and taken care of. The next house and the next yard may have not been well kept at all. The next house may have been fairly okay, average. The next house was pristine. And I got to thinking about what would make that road, what would make that drive a beautiful drive. It was only if everybody took care of their personal property, and everybody mowed their yard and kept their yards clean, and took care of their plants and stuff like that. That's the only way that I would have a beautiful drive. That's the only way that I would have something nice to look at. And maybe you're asking, like, where am I going with this? But like I said, if you were at the track field 2 weeks ago, we kind of got on the conversation of it. But it is my responsibility. It is my doing. It is mine and my wife's doings for us when we have kids, for me to teach them. It's my responsibility when I'm at school and I'm teaching sixth graders to to teach them right ways, to know like the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things. I wouldn't give a kid some kind of acid in the classroom without him having the proper safety equipment. That wouldn't be the right way to do things. I would have to teach them the right way of doing things. I'd have to teach them the right way of doing things if things go wrong. If you spill acid on yourself, it's not okay just to leave it. It's not okay just to simply go rub some hand sanitizer on your hands. If you get it in your eye, it's not okay just to blink a few times or put some eye drops in. And that's just analogies for where we're at in life right now. Where we're at in life right now is strange for, I think, a lot of us. It's strange for me because I understand that the only way to fix things is by coming to the feet of Jesus. And the only way to make this thing right and the only way to do what needs to be done is for us to buckle down, get in church, for us to understand that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and there is no other way. Period. Like I said, I'm at a bit of a loss for words because I don't know what to say to make it right. And I don't think I can say anything. I don't think it's anything that can be said. This isn't a battle for somebody that can. This isn't something that can be fixed with words. That's what I'm trying to say. This is something that's only fixed through generations and generations of you teaching your kids, you teaching those around you what is right and what is wrong. Me teaching my kids what is right and what is wrong. Me teaching my kids to stand up for what they believe in, to stand up for what is right. Because you can stand up for what is wrong, but it's to stand up for what is right, and what is right is the Word of God. What is right is Jesus. And I'll know that 100% every day. There's no doubt. And so, one of the things I've always kind of believed is that we need to be a generation who has conversations and who talks about things. And so, my challenge from today is whoever's watching this, whether you're young or whether you're old, is strike up a conversation at the dinner table, around the TV, at some point, if you're riding in the car, it doesn't matter. At some point during this next week, I want you to strike up a conversation that is tough. It can be a conversation about race. It can be a conversation about anything you want it to be. But I want it to be a conversation that is tough, if that makes any sense. A conversation that's maybe tough for you. You may have to look some up, and that's fine. But I want you to have a conversation with somebody this week, and maybe I need to set some ground rules for your conversation. A conversation does not mean yelling. A conversation does not mean anybody's feelings getting hurt. A conversation is simply two people talking about a topic, trying to figure things out, trying to understand. A conversation is one person listening and the other person or one person talking, another person listening and another person talking. To come to an understanding. That's not to say that sometimes we disagree. But I think if your beliefs are grounded in the Bible, I believe there's got to be some kind of commonality. There's got to be some common ground here. I can't see where you can stand on both sides of an issue and still believe in the same thing and still walk in the same path. That's my heart. That's where I'm at, and I know that only the youth aren't the only people watching these, and so the reason I kind of just went this direction is because this is a message for young and old. It's a message for me so that I take personal responsibility for the people that I'm around, that I teach them what's right and what's wrong, that I live a righteous life, that I don't walk that I don't walk a different way than I talk. And so that's my heart, and that's my challenge. Strike up a conversation this week. It might be tough for you, and if it's too tough to talk about, maybe you should pray about it first and then go talk about it. And maybe if you're a person who's easily angered by that topic, maybe it's not the right conversation. Maybe another conversation for another time or with somebody else. But I do challenge. I want us to get to a place to where we're having tough conversations, and you may not have the answer. That's so important during the topic of conversation, is that just because a topic gets brought up doesn't mean that you have to speak, or doesn't mean that you have to know the answer. That's the wonderful thing about having a conversation, is that you can say, I really don't know. Tell me what you know. I'm open ears. And so that's where I'm at. That's where my heart's at. I know it's not like a normal message that you guys would hear, but this is where I'm at, and this is where my heart's at. And I'm just coming to you from a place of genuineness, and from a place of I don't know how to fix things other than take personal responsibility and for me to do what I'm supposed to do. I hope you enjoyed this message. If you liked it, share it. We love you, and we'll see you soon.